So we're talking about Hispanic healthcare, and in order to get an inside look, I have my friend Christina here. Hello, Christina.
Hello.
And Christina grew up in a mostly Hispanic community just in northern Indiana. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I live in Ligonier, Indiana. It is an hour and a half north of here, and our Hispanic population is 52%. So Hispanics are the majority in my town. And we very much grew up just in that culture, and most of the Hispanics in my town are Mexican and literally moved from Mexico to Ligonier.
And your
So,
parents did as well, right?
yes, my dad moved when he was 7. And they were actually some of the first Mexicans in our town. My parents were. And then my mom actually lived in Texas all of her life. And then obviously when they got married, moved. So,
Could you tell me about when you were little, your views of healthcare, how often you went to the doctor, things like that?
mhm. Very much in the Hispanic culture, people only visit the doctor when it's absolutely necessary. So there is no preventative health care, like just going for a checkup to make sure you're okay or things like that. And I didn't have a pediatrician. I didn't even know what that was. And I know none of my like Mexican friends had pediatricians. Like that would have been weird to have
Mm-hmm.
a doctor that specializes in kids. Like you can see the regular doctor.
Right.
That's really the view. And so we would go to the doctor only when it was absolutely necessary. And, you had to be really sick to go. Growing up when I was 2, my mom was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so we did spend a lot of time like in doctor's offices, not too much of which I remember. But that would have been the only time. Like I visited the doctor maybe once a year, if that. And again, it was only because it was like a really severe case of tonsillitis or something,
Right,
and we would
right.
go.
How about like going to the dentist or
hmm
orthodontist or people having braces?
Yeah. I did have braces and would go to the dentist regularly, but that was because we had dental insurance. Both of my parents worked in factories that provided that, and obviously glasses as well. Because I really needed them, and again because of having insurance.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times, families that don't have insurance, it's not seen as a priority, and obviously all of those things are so expensive that they would not be a priority at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I know a lot of people that don't go to the dentist unless it's an absolute emergency,
Mm-hmm.
in which case they'd find the dentist that obviously does not take that healthcare insurance,
Mm-hmm.
that they can pay like through payments or something like that. And for glasses, a lot of times I find that Hispanics go to places like Walmart, where you can just pay for the visit, be done. Obviously, you don't have to have insurance or anything, and buy glasses that are really cheap if they're absolutely necessary.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Braces in particular are definitely like a luxury and not needed. So I was very privileged to have that.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever receive any like I don't know, I guess judgment because you had braces or glasses or
Um, Not necessarily. I don't think so.
okay.
I had braces ever since like I had started school because my teeth were very bad. So like I started in kindergarten
Uh-huh.
with all of that, and ended up getting braces in 3rd grade all the way till 7th or 8th. So it
Mm-hmm.
was just very much a part of me
Yeah.
because it'd been all of my school years.
Okay.
And I started with glasses when I was 3 or 4 too,
Okay.
just because I was very blind
That's
and I needed to see and
a
like
good thing.
yeah, like the teacher really noticed and
Right.
it was definitely affecting like all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
so again, like it had always been a part of
Right. Right.
me. So
Are there issues of like trust between doctors and like Hispanics in your town or as you've seen as a whole?
yeah. Actually, my sister is a nurse practitioner in my
Mm-hmm.
town, and she is time and time again booked with patients from 8 in the morning till 5 with just a 1 hour lunch break.
Mm-hmm.
And predominantly her patients are all Hispanic because she can speak Spanish and relate to them a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
They understand her, they know what she's talking about, it's not confusing,
Mm-hmm.
and so they do trust her a lot more than they would trust the doctor.
Right.
And she actually cannot see patients, I think, under the age of 10.
Okay.
And so it's very hard when they have to go for their kids to see the doctor,
Mm-hmm.
for them to take their kids to do that.
Mm-hmm. So parents will come in kind of like, will they like pretend to have the symptoms or just say like my kid has this?
They will say that it's like their kid,
Okay.
who has the problem and stuff because they know that they need to visit the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
But they ask her a lot of questions as well, like if
Okay.
they see her in the office or people at her church and stuff because she
Mhm.
goes to a Hispanic church.
Okay.
And so I think there's just a trust because there is a misunderstanding.
Mhm.
A lot of times they have limited English
Right.
abilities. And so, when the doctor's saying big words that they don't understand, like, I understand that that's the medical part,
Mhm.
but at the same time, they're not understanding what you're
Right.
saying. And so there is that huge, like, what are they even talking about issue.
Mhm.
But then just like I'm allowing you to treat me and you're of a different culture, you're of a different background, you don't know where I
Mhm.
come from. Like there's just that lack of understanding.
Right.
And so I think that's why the lack of trust comes in.
Yeah.
But that's true with a lot of other things as well, not just with healthcare.
Okay. For my last question, what do you see for the future of healthcare with Hispanics, or how or what advice would you give to someone going into healthcare?
Yeah, I think healthcare is getting so much better and improved, obviously, with technology and things
Mhm.
like that. Um, there is a high demand for nurse practitioners right now because they can do
Mhm.
so much of what the doctor can do and
Mhm.
they can be paid a little bit less.
Mhm.
So that's really great for my sister in that
Mhm.
case. But I think it's changing, especially in my town because people have now been there a while and they understand like this is what we need to do. There's a push for them to learn English and things like that.
Mhm.
So I think it's changing. It's just a slow process.
Right.
And for those going into healthcare in the future, just to say to be mindful that it's not necessarily you as a person that they don't trust or
Right.
anything. It's just the culture.
Mhm.
And then also, it wouldn't hurt to have your Spanish medical dictionary book either. Um, because again, like while you may say things, even sometimes when you say things correctly in Spanish in the appropriate terms, they're not going to understand what that means. And so
Mhm.
sometimes you do have to be very casual in asking like the medical questions.
Mhm.
And I think in the American culture, that's maybe seen as rude.
Right.
Um, but in the Hispanic culture, that's what they're going to understand.
Right.
And so I think you just need to be cautious of it's not necessarily a bad thing, like, to ask those questions in a more casual way. That's really how they understand, and it's
Mhm.
better for them to give answers
Right.
and truly be taken care of well.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all this information,
Yeah,
and
thank
thanks for
you.
talking to me today.